I know what the Lib Dems think about the EU. UKIP writes itself, and I know where Theresa May stands. I would find it hard to say where Labour stands at the moment. Just in a couple of sentences, what's your policy?
Firstly, do you really know where the Lib Dems stand? They've only got a group of 9, and the last time they had to vote on Article 50, half of them voted one way and the other half abstained.
They want to stay in and they want a second referendum.
Well, that's
you
what
don't
some
want
of them
that.
have said
But they
today.
are very keen to stay in. Now,
anyway.
what's in 2 sentences? What is Labour's position on what happens now? Not on the process, but on what we want, where we want to be.
Our position is this, that the British people have spoken, we have our instructions, we have to make sure that we get the best possible deal. We believe the best possible deal begins with the economy. Nobody voted, whether they voted to remain or to leave, to be poorer or to lose their job.
And that, on that point, you are no different to Theresa May, because she believes we want as much market access as we can get, we want investment. Now, she is not willing to pay the price for that market access by giving up control of our borders. Are you saying you would have less control of the borders than Theresa May is advocating?
I think there are definitely differences in terms of emphasis, but I think that the speech that she made was she was trying to ride 2 horses at once that were going in 2 different directions. And it is our job as the opposition, and remember, we are only the opposition, we have to hold her to account. There are bits in her speech we like. So we like the idea of a tariff-free access to the single market. We like there not being a build-up of red tape. That's the sort of thing we like to hear. So, yes, we will support her on that, and we want to make sure that the negotiations go that way. But when she talks about some kind of weird new customs union entirely built for Britain, or when she says, if we don't get this deal, then we're going to become a completely different country, we're going to break the economic model. This is what she said.
Yeah.
She said she wanted to break the economic model. She said she wanted to attract businesses.
She didn't want to, that was the backup plan.
No, all right, okay. She threatened something, she can only threaten it if she means it, and what she means is if she doesn't get her own way, she's going to try and attract businesses here by lowering corporation tax and by making it more attractive. That means less money for services.
Understand.
You know,
so that critique I've heard. I suppose I really want to know.
You say you don't know what we say.
No, but I know what your critique of her is. What I want to know is basically the question is there an alternative vision to Brexit, to the one that says we get control of our border back, we leave the single market, we leave the customs union, and we just fight for as much access as we can get after that? Now, that sounds to me as that's what your position is. You're not saying we'll have free movement, so we are going to leave the free market, the single market.
No. What we're saying is that our first principle, what is most important, is that we look after the economy. What's most important for any government is the safety and security of its citizens, and the second is the economy.
So you would have free movement, because all the economists will tell you is free movement is the price you pay to get the best market access, and the best market access is good for the economy. So
if we're not going to be in the single market, and we're going to have a custom-made deal for Britain, then there will need to be negotiating, and we've made it clear that we will not die in a ditch for freedom of movement. There needs to be some give and take on this, but our priority is to make sure that nobody loses their job and that we look after the economy. Because our people, because people who are just keeping their head above water will be the ones who will be affected most if the economy goes backwards. This is entirely consistent with Labour values.
I understand, but I'm not entirely clear as to the trade-off between market access, let's call that good for the economy, and control of borders, which allows us to control immigration. I'm not 100% clear where you are on that. Look, let's suppose you've knocked on my door. I'm a member of the public. You've knocked on the door, and I say, "Here, Emily Thornberry, tell me what your policy on Europe is." Now, give it to me in a punter-friendly style.
Well, I've just told you. Do you want me to say it all over again?
Right. So it's priority to the economy. What about immigration? What's the policy on immigration?
Our policy on immigration is that we will not die in a ditch for freedom of movement.
That's not we won't die in a ditch. Is it? Are you for us or against it?
It will be a negotiation.
You're for free movement or you're against free movement? You're not dying in a ditch implies you want it, but you're not going to...
We're not against immigration. We have always been in favour of fair rules and managed migration. That has always been Labour's policy, and it continues to be Labour's policy.
So you're in favour of free movement, but you're not going to die in a ditch for it. But the EU wants us to have free movement, so not dying in a ditch for it, it's going to be easy to negotiate. You will keep it and get good market access.
Now, do you know what? We're not going to be doing the negotiations. Unfortunately, we're in opposition. And so our job is to make sure that this government does not lose sight of the overwhelming importance of jobs.
Right.
And living standards and the economy. You know, we do not need them to, we do not trust them to go off on their own and negotiate on our behalf in Europe without us keeping an eye on them. And that's why today what we were saying was that, you know, that the Article 50, if it's going to be triggered, we will not get in the way of it, but we will try and amend the legislation in order to ensure that they keep coming back, that we keep an eye on it. And if necessary, there'll be hand-to-hand combat on this. We need to make sure that we get the best deal on behalf of the whole country. And she can't say she acts on behalf of the whole country without actually negotiating with Parliament, without listening to Parliament, without listening to the views of the British people. We represent important parts of Britain. Actually, you know, people say, oh, Labour's in such difficulties. We've got, you know, people who are in favour of leaving the European and people who want to leave the Union. You know, actually, we represent the country. I mean, the fact is that we have a...
And they represent more of it because they've got more votes.
Yeah, but the mixture of views within the Labour Party reflects the views in the... Yeah. And so actually, you know, the way in which we're thinking about this with a little more depth, I think, than the Tories are, is a good thing. And we can contribute and we can help, but they do need to listen.
Very positive spin on the division.
But it's not a spin, it's simply the truth.
Right. One of the things you've been... the lines today has been you will not let the government turn Britain into an offshore Cayman Islands.
Damn right we won't.
Is that going to be an amendment to the Article 50 bill? Is there going to be something to that effect?
Let's see what the bill is first. Right. It's really difficult for me to tell you.
It's going to be a couple of lines, probably, isn't it? It's going to be on Thursday.
Maybe and maybe not. Let's see what
there's no point now, is there? You could put an amendment saying Britain mustn't become a tax haven or Britain mustn't aim to reduce its...
Well, we may not be allowed to put it in exactly those words.
But there's no point anyway, because a future government can just change its mind on that. It's not a negotiating thing with the EU.
But there'll be a number of things, right? Yeah. So the first thing is, the plan, it may be a piece of paper with plan written on the top, but it's a speech that she didn't make in Parliament and she wasn't answerable to questions. Right. And so we want to have a white paper, first thing. We want to have a clear plan so that we can look at exactly what it is, so that we can hold them to account. If that's what she says she wants to do, she's promising everything to everyone. Let's have it written down and let's hold her to it. Let's scrutinise. That's number one. Number two is, what are the broad principles? What are the broad principles when you're negotiating? We want to be able to set some lines in the sand. This you should be doing, this you... And then, most importantly, is the accountability. So as you go along, you must keep reporting back. We should hold you to account. And that final vote should not be at the 11th hour when it's basically take it or leave it.
All process stuff. All process. But that's, I mean, that's interesting. But if there's not really much difference between you and them...
There is a difference. There is a lot of difference between our approach and the Tories' approach. I really think...
Do you accept... I mean, one of the difficulties for Labour is that basically the country's great schism is Remain a Brexit. And opposition that is trying to be kind of, well, we accept the Brexit result. It puts you in a very difficult position because, in a sense, you're not on the great fissure, on either side of the great fissure in politics.
No, in the end, you know, you cannot have political parties who go for one half or the other half, which is what the other two parties are doing. Actually, the fact that we are trying to bring the country together under the principle that we need to look after the economy and we need to get the best deal on behalf of the whole country is something that we can unify the country around. We're not going to chase 48%. We're not going to chase an extreme part of 52%. We're going to do our utmost to ensure that we stand up for the whole country and we should be listened to, and we're going to make sure that we are.